Okay, thank you, Dottie and Dan. So yes, I would like to call to order the January 8th, 2024 Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency meeting. Welcome, everyone. It is 7:05 by my computer clock.
I have 7:01.
7:01. Oh, I guess mine's off. Okay. Well, whatever Dottie has. So we'll go with that. So looking at the agenda, got it, okay. Have a roll call of members present. I'll begin. Mark Parker.
William Rowinski.
Marla Butts.
Stuart Peasley.
Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Okay, and we have Stuart Peasley as well. Very good. So we have definitely a quorum, and we'll begin. We don't have any alternates present, so we'll move on. Action on minutes of the previous meeting. The December 4th, 2023 meeting. Dan Mello emailed those to us. It's also on the town website. Anybody have any corrections they see?
Bill Rowinski, I have one.
Okay.
Section 5, pending applications. The very first one, 09-23-08. And in the bold at the bottom, Marla Butts, seconded by W. Rowinski, to accept application. And I believe it was to approve the application.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay, so approving, not accepting. We approved, okay. Approving application, okay.
I didn't find anything else.
I didn't either.
Okay.
Motion to accept the minutes by Bill Rowinski from the December 4th, 2023 Woodstock Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency.
As noted, change.
As with the change as noted.
Yep.
I move to second that.
Okay. Motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Marla Butts to accept the minutes of the meeting with the added correction of in section 5 pending applications that IWWA Rowinski to accept to approve application 09-23-08. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Okay. Pending applications, we have none on the agenda. So we will move on to Roman numeral 6, new applications. Letter A, application 12-23-01, Route 150. I'm sorry, 150 Route 169, Woodstock Academy field construction to tennis courts within the RA, right? Okay.
Is there anybody here representing the Academy this evening?
Okay.
So my question would be how does this fit in with the parking lot project that we just approved within the last year or so? Is there some overlap, or I don't see anything on the aerials to show the parking lot improvements?
Are you saying they're connected, Bill?
I'm saying, trying to picture or locate everything, because I believe the parking lot has not been done yet. And I'm just trying to place the tennis courts and see if there's any way they come close with each other or overlap or replace each other, or what the story is. All right, on that map, there is parking lot, but I don't know if that's the improved or existing.
Dan, do you have any answers to that?
No, I do not. I'm not familiar with the project Bill's referencing.
We had an application for the expanded or reconfigured parking area that had some drainage considerations. They added some kind of underground drains. And my thought was it might be in the same area, but I could be wrong. So I don't know if this is the same area or partially the same area, or there's overlap, or what would be my question.
I'm not recalling that application. You remember how long ago that was?
I don't remember it either.
I
Yeah.
believe it's within the last year.
Would that have been use permitted as of right or wetlands agent approval?
No,
It's not ringing a bell with me.
I don't remember it.
You do?
I don't.
Oh,
I would have to look back for the, they were gonna redo the parking lot and put some underground drainage in certain areas of the parking lot. And I think run off to maybe the brook there on the left side of the screen.
So it looks like where my cursor is following here on this CAD line, a 12-inch corrugated pipe of sorts. I don't know if that might have been the work, and this is the parking lot that you're thinking of.
I'm not sure by looking at that if that's the exact area. But I guess we would need some clarification on that project, the status of that project.
Okay, that one definitely came before my time. So I'm thinking it had to be early 2022 or maybe 21.
If it came before your time, it wasn't much before your time.
Okay.
I'm vaguely remembering something.
We had questions about the underground drains being able to handle the capacity or something like that.
Yeah. So I don't see a wetlands delineation by, okay, that's but here. Okay, I see it now. This would be on page 24 of the Zoom document for this application. And it shows a stormwater quality basin. But it doesn't show, let's see, is there a high water outlet? So this is a wetlands agent approval application, assuming that the wetlands are delineated correctly. but
Yeah, and this is for tennis courts, right? Not for parking lot.
no, but it's got a stormwater management basin in the upland review area.
Oh,
And it doesn't show an outlet for that basin. So I have some questions about what is the emergency spillway for that basin. I don't see anything. You can see the tennis courts there. And you can see this drainage that has 12-inch CPP, 5% grade, which is coming from a manhole, DMH number 3. So it's picking up drainage from other sources. I think we got some questions on this that we need to have them supply us with their engineer, whoever did the design plan for this. CHA is going to have to come and explain what they're proposing and how that basin is going to be handled during high flow conditions. It's only a 2-foot deep, looks like a 2-foot deep basin. See it doesn't say what the bottom of the basin is. It implies that the first elevation grade that we have is at 425, and it has a top grade at 427, and then it's got a native ground of 428, 429. Oh, so this is not going. Oh, that is the relief. Okay, so what is the invert? 425 is the invert. So what's the water quality that it's picking up? What is it draining? What's the runoff coming from that it needs to have a water quality basin there? I'm not understanding this. I think we need to have CLA come and explain the application.
would it be from the tennis courts?
Yeah, but that's over.
Yeah.
That's sheet flow. Why would you? And it's going the other way. 420. The chain link fence around it says it's at 427. 427.3. And so that's higher, but it's not. It's very gently. You're right. It's very gently flowing in that direction. But what is the? I still think we need to have somebody come and explain what they're doing. And where is that water going? If it's actually just runoff from it, and what's the system that it's going into?
So can we still receive it for consideration, but with questions? You know, that we have questions.
We can accept the application and table it for next meeting, requesting that that their CHA explain the application to us, how it's going to work and what the system is that it's draining to, and making sure that, because it says project existing drainage system to retain throughout construction. Typical. So there already is a drainage system. And Bill, you seem to think there was some kind of parking lot that they were going to do, and we can research that to make sure that this blends in with that. However that was, because I am not that. So I'm going to move that application 12-23-01, 150 Route 169, Woodstock Academy, field conversion to tennis courts in the Upland River area be tabled till next meeting, with a request that the applicant's engineering firm of CHA present an explanation of the application at the next meeting.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butt, seconded by Bill Rowinski. The table application 12-23-01 for next month's meeting to answer questions of the application. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
I'll reach out to the applicant.
Yep. Thanks, Dan. Okay. Section 6, letter B, application 12-23-02, 200 Green Road, Hull Forest Products for Ken Merchant Timber Harvest.
Tim Merchant.
Tim Merchant, sorry, yep.
Mr. Bartlett, I believe, is with us.
Yes.
Mr. Bartlett, when was the last treatment? Because you say in the timber harvest objection is partially released regeneration that's established since last treatment. When was
Yeah,
the last?
10 years. It was 10 years ago. It was shortly before I think the property changed hands.
So this is resprouting stuff that's come up?
Well, resprouting and seeding, natural seeding as
Mhm.
well. Yeah. I apologize for some of the colors on the map here. There's relatively small percentage of the property. Harvest area 1 along the top northern boundary is the larger part of the area that we would be working in. Does involve one wetland crossing. There's no stream there. It's a wetland feature. And the road there is an abandoned road that borders on the top boundary there, but with the terrain next to that road, it's more practical with the equipment to cross the wetland feature, which is what we did 10 years ago. So there's an existing skid trail there, so to speak. It's has grown back in since that treatment, but plan is to use the portable timber mats there to protect the integrity of that crossing. And then the other small portion to be harvested would be harvest area number 2 there on the southern part of that top part of the property. The road into there is an existing roadway that comes in from Green Road just below the house site, kind of follows the brook back through there.
Ah, there it is. Okay. So that's looks like close to the headwaters of Muddy Brook.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see a problem with this request. I'm going to move to approve application 12-23-02, 200 Green Road, Whole Forest Products for Kim Merchant as a use permitted as a right timber harvest.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve application 12-23-02 for Whole Forest Products timber for Kim Merchant timber harvest.
As a use permitted as of right
Is a use permitted as of right. Use permitted.
under agriculture.
Any further discussion?
Mark, this is Stuart. I'm going to recuse myself because I'm doing some work on the house. So I don't want there to be any appearance of conflict of interest.
Yep, very good, Stuart. Accusing, no, okay. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved.
Mark, I heard another voice say aye. Who was
Yeah.
that?
Who was that?
Not me.
It was a lady. Was it Kim Merchant saying I'm in favor?
So the record should show that the only commission members are myself, Bill Rowinski, Mark Parker, and Stu Peasley recused himself.
Correct. Yep. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
Good to see you, Mike.
Yeah. Let's see it.
Okay. Moving on to Roman numeral 6, letter C, application 12-23-03. 52 County Road, Kevin and Sonia Green. Driveway for new home within the upland review area. Okay.
Dan, do you have a locust map for this entire property showing where the driveway comes from?
That's
'Cause-
on, Bill Rowinski, that's on the far end of County Road. This is, I think they had artists in the country there. There's
Yeah,
a barn.
just over by 171.
So is that an existing driveway?
Yes, and the barn is existing too.
Okay.
They used to have arts and, like fairs there. As you can see in the bottom, straight under the barn, there is a pond there, but where they're planning the house is on a rise to the right of the barn.
I'm not familiar with Rick, what is it, Zulik? Did you check his qualifications, Dan, from the Southern New England Society?
I could
Or-
check very quickly, but I didn't have enough time in the office to
Okay.
do that.
So one thing they should remember, is anyone here from Archer? Is anyone here to represent the application?
The homeowners are here.
Okay. Just let Archer Survey know that for future reference, soil scientists are not certified, they're qualified. You know, there's no legal certification for soil scientists. They just have to meet the qualifications of the federal government. So they should be using the term qualified. That's how it's said in the statute.
Yeah.
Just for their information. I don't think that's critical. Looks like he's got his delineations here with the flag numbers. There's no proposed modifications to the 530-foot plus or minus gravel drive to County Road. Are you proposing any changes to that gravel
No.
drive? No top dressing?
It will
anything?
be in the plan, there will be top dressing. correct?
Okay.
I mean, you should
Eventually.
eventually.
So because it's close to the road, close to the pond, you probably want to have that included in this application so you don't have to come back at a later time for doing any additional earth moving work in the upland review area, that it be covered under this application.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any earth move. Well, I don't know. I
Well-
guess top dressing.
Is
Well-
earth moving? Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem personally. I mean, it's an existing gravel drive. You haven't had any problems with rutting or washing off or over of the road from anything?
No,
Okay. How long has the barn been there?
since the late 80s, I think.
Okay. All right. And you have a Northeast District Department of Health approval for the design of the septic system?
Did you receive the latest? We got an approval of the review with some stipulations.
Yeah, that's usually the way they do it.
We
They,
received that, I think.
Dan, you have that in the file? The
I
design?
hadn't received that as of the last time I was in the office.
They sent it to Tracy. Hold on one second. I think, I believe on Wednesday. It went to the building clerk, to Tracy. And there's a letter attached with
Okay,
their
I'll
approval.
talk to Tracy tomorrow to get that
Okay.
with this application.
Okay, I can forward it to you if you want, Dan.
Yes, please.
Okay.
My name at woodstockct.gov.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with Dan processing this as a wetlands agent approval as long as he has in hand the Northeast District Department of Health's design approval letter. Usually those are issued with a lot of times they're issued with stipulations on it so that when they go for an approval to construct, which happens later, that's the second phase. But as long as the design is found acceptable, that means they're not asking for it to be moved to another location on the property.
Correct.
So as long, I think it would just be appropriate to move, I would move that application 12-23-03, 52 County Road, Kevin and Sonia Green. That the driveway for the new home in the upland review area be approved by the wetlands agent upon receipt of an adequate letter from the Northeast Department of Health approving the design, as well as adding to the regulated activity top dressing of the gravel drive for vehicle access to the new home.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to, was it approved as a wetlands agent? Is that?
To have Dan
Yep.
approve it, providing he receives a copy of the Northeast District Departments of Health design approval letter and include in the approval top dressing of the gravel drive for the new home.
Letter. Top dressing. Yeah.
By top dressing, I mean nothing, no more than a foot.
Yep.
So let me amend that to say top dressing with no more than a foot.
Well, more than a foot. Bill, are you okay with that as the second?
Yes,
Yep, okay. Any further discussions? I do have one question. Is this the property, that's the Artists in the Country, property that, near the top of the
Yes.
county road? Yes, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay, yeah. Cause yeah, that barn has been there quite some time, right?
I believe it was built in the mid 80s.
Right, yep. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of, with the last several really bad storms, just so you guys know, just north of that property, toward the Route 171, the road's been closed because it's flooding over and topping
Oh,
over the
yeah.
road there.
Yes, so we're very familiar.
Yeah, I'm trying to make new builders and property owners aware of the flood areas that they're
Yeah. Well,
we've owned it for so
encountering,
many years.
Yeah, we've owned
encountering in
it.
the future.
Yeah, we've owned the property for many years and we're finally getting around to building. So
Yeah.
we're very
Yeah.
familiar.
My son and one of my son-in-laws actually tried crossing that during one storm and flooded and the engine stalled, and so he had to get pulled out.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Flooded again tomorrow night.
So, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Why?
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. All right, thank you. Okay, Roman numeral 6 under new applications, letter D as in David. Application 01-24-01, 122 Joy Road, Eric Hansen for Mark Labonte Timber Harvest. All right. There we go. Okay.
So we were also provided with an updated site map today that I'll present to you after I present the application. We did receive this on an old form. I told the applicant that, but it was 12:30 at the last minute of my shift. I just wanted to make sure that if we can get this business accomplished, then I mean, I can't chase down an amended form, but I think the information that we're looking for is present.
You know, I don't know if Mr. Hansen's been before us before, but he should know that we need, is he online here?
I'm here, yep.
Okay. Did you know that Woodstock has a different form, slightly different than what the notification of timber harvest that was produced? by
I
that
do, and if I'm honest, the landowner filled this one out. I did let him know that there was a form online that Woodstock has, but that apparently had been already done by the time I told him that.
Well, the different, one of the major differences between those two is a signature that grants the commission the right to inspect if they feel that there's a need to, as
Okay,
well as a signature portion that once the commission decides that is a use permitted as of right under agriculture, it's signed off by the chair. So
Okay.
that's not on this form. Those two
Would you-
things are missing.
would you like an amended form then with this information to be sent in?
Yep, you should submit the proper form.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll let him know.
Yep. So explain your harvest. I think you have it on page 5 of 7. Tell
Yep,
us what
so,
you're doing.
so this is pretty straightforward. We prepared a forest management plan last year, and we are going to be using the plan as it's written to implement these. And what you're seeing is approximately 9 acres or so of patch clear cut to be done to regenerate a portion of the property. Concurrently, there's going to be treatment of invasive plants, and just in terms of layout, what you're looking at is on the outside edges of all these areas, there are 2 diagonal painted lines facing inward to tell the operator where to stop, and within the interior of the cuts, there are a handful in each of the areas of leaf trees to be retained. The intent of the harvest, excuse me, is to be able to effectively treat the invasives, create some young forest, early successional habitat, and attempt to regenerate some oak and hickory in there, both of which require a lot of sunlight in order to be able to successfully regenerate. We are also hoping to be able to regenerate some aspen in there, which works well with the concept of early successional habitat, particularly as it relates to its landscape position. All 4 of those areas are close enough within both open areas and open water to be able to serve as useful habitat for bats, as well as other wildlife that need young forest like woodcock and potentially even grouse.
So what's the work in wetlands and watercourses?
Within the upland review area primarily. So there's none of the 4 areas are within mapped wetlands. There is, I don't know if you can see it here. It's not drawn in. I think the area that or the map that Dan will show you afterwards will show it a little bit better, but along the upper,
Map 6 of 7, it shows on there. Look, a watercourse wetlands corridor that heads to the pond.
no, not that one.
No.
What's on 7? Nope, that's not the one. So it was the one that Mark submitted today.
Do you have that, Dan, that you can screen share with us?
What's on the screen now is what I received today, and I'll
Okay.
scroll through it.
All right, so that is not the one that I was hoping to show. Can I share my screen?
Mhm,
Is that possible?
mhm.
I share, oh, I cannot
Just
share.
bear
my-
with me one moment.
Yeah, Dan has to
Juggle.
close his, yeah, and
All right. One. Here. All right, can everyone see the map?
yep,
Okay, can you see my cursor moving?
yep,
Okay, so this thing here represents an existing crossing. This is an existing access road. This is a drainage that comes down through. There are culverts already in existence here. This is really the only thing that would otherwise be, besides the areas in the upland review area. This is the only other thing that would potentially be relevant or of interest to the Inland Wetlands Commission. And so just to protect the existing culverts, we're going to be putting bridge mats on top of those during the operation.
Eric, this is Dan. Can you send me this color version?
I sure can. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So what I can do, and you tell me if you'd prefer it all together, but I'll have Mark, or I'll ask him if he wants me to fill out the Woodstock specific application and send this map with it, or I can send them separately. Do you have a preference?
I don't think we should have a preference. They can come together because I don't know that we're going to take an action on this tonight.
right.
Okay.
So, yeah, send them together.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the regulations and about what a regulated activity, and it says apart from doing work actually in wetlands and watercourses, which doesn't sound like you're really proposing anything there, any clearing, grubbing, filling, grading, paving, excavating, construction, depositing, removing of material, and the discharge of stormwater on land within 100 feet measured horizontally from the boundary of any wetland and 125 feet from any continuous watercourse is a regulated activity. So within the 125 feet of the pond that's there,
Yep.
are you going to be doing grubbing?
No grubbing.
Okay.
No. Anything that is going to be cut above ground, and nothing happens with those stumps.
Okay. So typically when we're looking at uses permitted as of right under agriculture, it's the work that's actually in wetlands and watercourses. So it sounds like you're not proposing any work in wetlands or watercourses at all. Am I
No.
correct in that?
The only thing that is relevant is that stream crossing, and that's outside of the area where we're treating. I just wanted to let you know that we're doing a crossing, and
Right,
that
that's already existing.
it's pre-existing. We're just going to be putting bridge mats over top of it.
Okay, okay. So, Mark, what I'm thinking on this, they didn't give us the correct form. I would like to see the correct form. If the correct form and map comes in, I don't have a problem approving this, not under use permitted as of right under agriculture, because he's not doing any work in wetlands or watercourses. He's only doing a small amount in the upland review area. And that could be covered under conservation of soil and water. It's actually the only, I'm not even sure if that's a regulated activity. If there's already existing cross culvert and they're not bringing any fill, they're just putting the mats in. So I'm not sure if that would constitute as a regular activity because the crossing itself may not be wetlands. The water course would be, but there's already existing road and they're not bringing fill in over that water course. They're going to be bringing in removable mats. So that's a temporary thing. So I'm thinking that for this particular application, if he brings in the form, that, that you can approve it without coming back to the meeting. Because I don't really see there being a need to come back, because I don't see for sure that there's a regulated activity other than the temporary placement of those mats over the watercourse culvert. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Yeah, as long as it's still, using the new form, the correct form,
Mhm.
it would still authorize our wetlands agent to be able to go on the property just to check and make sure everything's, approved as we, we've received it. Yeah.
Or if we get a complaint.
Or if we
that
get a
there's-
complaint, right, yeah.
Okay with me, this is Bill.
Fine with me
Stuart?
as well. Fine, sure, sounds good.
So I'm
Brief.
gonna move that application 01-24-01, 122 Joy Road, Eric Hansen for Mark Labonte for a timber harvest be authorized by Chair Mark Parker on receipt of the correct timber harvest application form and map that is being shown to the commission via screen share on Zoom tonight, without further review by the commission.
Stuart Peasley, I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Stuart Peasley, to move forward with Chairman Parker authorizing the resubmitted form when it comes in, and that we will not need to be brought back before the agency commission for further discussion. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. All right.
Eric Hansen here, just so I'm clear, it sounds like my homework is to get Dan a copy of this map and the filled out form, the Woodstock specific filled out form,
Correct.
and we're good.
Yep.
All right, we'll get you that before end of week then.
Thanks, Eric. Just one more thing too. Can you unshare your screen?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Yep.
You were tired of seeing this map?
I couldn't figure out how to get it back on to mine, but
Yeah.
thank you.
We'll play nice. Let's play nice and share the screen.
All right. Thank you, people.
Have a good one.
Welcome.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Take care.
All right. Moving on to Roman numeral number 7, administrative business.
So we've received some correspondence, and I think we have people on our Zoom call related to this issue of some emergency work that will need to be performed at Bungie. And I have a letter from Karen Kirkpatrick that I'm about to share, and then an email from Bungie Association.
Right.
Do we have any pictures of what's described in this email? Okay, that's the picture. Is that
Yeah,
what
I
you just,
apologize. That's the best I could provide, but Yes, that's the picture.
And where's the water coming from?
Can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the water comes from Lakeview Drive. There was a catch basin that was installed that dumps out into the property and floods down by the brown shed. And then there's a torrent of water that goes by the boat all the way out to the lake. So we've got an engineer putting together plans to fix this permanently to bring before you folks. But the amount of rain that we had at the last storm and the saturation of the ground, it's really become an emergency. The one homeowner has trouble with septic system, and the other homeowner, Karen, the water is literally inches from her foundation.
So when was the catch basin put in?
And I'm new to my role here, so I think it was a couple of years ago, and it was put in by a roads chairman who is no longer with us.
So I recall that we had some application that came before us. I think it was on Lakeview Drive. So Dan, if you check back in the records about, I think it's 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, there was something that came in for Lakeview Drive. And I remember the former road chairman coming in and having discussions about that.
I
I'll
remember it.
investigate that one
So
and share that with Chris.
yeah, so I don't have when people have come and talked about emergencies, you do whatever fixes at your own risk. I mean, we can't say, yeah, it's okay to go and do anything, but whatever you do, you're going to have to come back and get authorizations for, and you're going to have to demonstrate that what you've done, it makes sense and is the best thing for the wetlands and watercourses that you've got there. So if you have an emergency situation where somebody's property is being damaged by it, I mean, we're going to get some pretty heavy rain tomorrow night.
Yes,
with
we
snow
are.
melting. There's going to be some problems. I don't know if they've got any sandbags that they can sandbag off their property a little bit, or at least create a diversion so it doesn't get so close to them. And it looks like the water's pretty turbid too,
It is.
getting into the lake.
Yes. So we did talk to Pinecroft, which is Chris Chapman, and he did provide me with this invoice for work that he's beginning as soon as he can get on the property, which hopefully will be in the next few days, but it is very wet down there.
So why's he got to remove the stumps?
Trees
the
were
water.
removed. Yeah, there were trees that were removed down by the water last fall, I believe, and they left the stumps in the ground. But to allow water to flow, to the lake, the stumps would have to be removed.
Do you have a diagram showing where
I apologize. I don't. I'm sorry. We have that with our engineer, Carl Akamovic.
Akamovic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's working on the permanent fix.
Okay. So how are you going to stabilize it? If you're digging a 3-foot swale, you're using 3/4 inch to 1 1/4 inch stone. Is the velocity such, has that been the recommendation from your engineer to use for the velocities that you might get from that?
It wasn't from the engineer. It was just from Pinecroft Paving and Landscaping.
Well, and I would suggest that you contact Carl Akamovic and get his advice before you do any emergency work without any authorizations. I would
Okay.
double check with him, because
Okay.
that's pretty small stone. And if you've got heavy flows that come through, you could just have a real mess at the lake's edge.
Right.
Okay. I will do that.
I don't know how any of the other commission members feel about it, but if there is an emergency situation where somebody's property is being damaged, they need to do whatever they need to do to protect their property, but then they're going to have to come back and get approvals for it. And that's why I would think that they should have the engineer give them the recommendations, because he's the one who's going to have to provide a demonstration for what ultimately gets done and what was done.
I will
Anybody
call
else?
him tomorrow morning. Yep.
Yeah,
That's good
what I-
advice.
Yeah, that's what I would do on
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Because you might have to go back and retrofit if you don't do it right the first time. And he's going to give you the best advice to be honest with you. I mean, landscapers are good at doing a lot of things, but he's going to be working off the hydraulics, and he'll know, at least have a better idea, I think, as to what the size stone is that you need and what you might actually have to do to alleviate it, at least on an immediate basis. In the meantime, suggest that the property owners maybe get themselves some sandbags and try to protect their properties before that heavy rain comes tomorrow night.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'll do that.
I don't know if the town has sandbags in stock for anything like this, or has a sand pile for people to fill sandbags. I don't know, but they're talking about 2 to 3 inches on top of the snow, and it's going to melt the snow at the same time. So, with the ground being frozen, you're going to get the maximum runoff. It's not a very, it's not a very deep frost, but it's enough to stop the water from infiltrating into the ground. That's kind of like a worst case scenario.
I have a meeting with Jason on Thursday, but I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. How do the other commission members feel about this? I've given my talk.
Oh, Bill Rowinski, I have to agree with you on the comments that you've made. I mean,
Stu, you have,
Well, I think if it poses an imminent threat to the property, that, you know, the sandbags or whatever else he could do to put in as a temporary measure makes sense. I don't know what you can do tomorrow. If it, you know, I hope he can get enough done that it'll be worth the effort, that he can stop it. That's kind of that's last minute, so I hope he can get it done.
Yeah, too short of a time frame. Yeah.
and then Chris, next month, could you give us an update as to where you stand with Carl Akamovic and the permanent fix,
Yes, I will.
and what you had to do on an emergency basis?
I will.
Thank you.
Would it be possible for him to, I mean, can Pinecroft get over there with a skid steer to do some swale?
That's why I'm suggesting he talk to his engineer first,
Oh, okay.
you know, to figure out, because they're talking about putting in, you know, 3/4 inch stone to
That's not
1 1/4
much.
inch stone. That's not very big stone.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I should check with the engineer. If they're going to do emergency work, have a professional engineer give them some advice. In the meantime, sandbags may be the only thing
Right.
to initially for tomorrow's stuff, because they're not going to get anything done during the rainstorm and the snow on the ground very easily. It's going to be like smush after the rain takes the frost out of the ground.
Yes.
Hmm.
Has there been any impact on the foundation, Chris, of your house or building?
One of the houses, the water line was about 5 inches from the foundation during that massive rain that we had a few weeks ago. On the other side of the property, there's a septic system that doesn't work when it's raining like that. So it's definitely critical for both properties.
How close is the proposed temporary ditch to that septic system?
DigSafe was just there on Friday. I don't have the exact numbers to tell you, but it's fairly close. And there are also some wells as well, drinking water wells that they have to be careful about.
Yeah, I was going to say you might have to get NDDH, Northeast District Department of Health, in there to verify that whatever ditch they put in is not going to compromise that septic system, so that you don't get leachate coming out of into the ditch. I mean, that's another concern.
Okay.
Obviously, the septic system's had some problems in the past, and maybe it needs to have an engineered repair.
Right.
Is that a permanent home or a seasonal home?
They're both permanent homes.
Okay. Yeah, it's not good.
No, and I appreciate your advice. I'm new to my role here as a volunteer, and I don't have a background in any of this, so doing the best I can.
That's okay. We're fine. We understand. So Mark, if he's coming back with a report at next meeting and with some direction as to what their schedule is for coming in with a permanent fix, I don't think we need to take any more action. They need to do whatever they have to do to make it safe and
Yep.
protect the properties, or protect the buildings, the structures, and the septic system.
Right, that's right. Yep. All right, good luck, Chris, and yeah, we'll have to hear what you have to report to us next month.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good
Welcome,
night.
thank you.
All right, anything else under administrative business?
Yes, in the same neighborhood, I had reached out to Mr. Bentley about his berm, and to see if he had any update from Deep Dam Safety. And he just did provide us a letter, and I'll be reading it for the first time with you. I'll share it for the screen. Momentarily.
Yep.
Now I'll be able to see it.
So Dan, it doesn't look like he answered your questions. Completely. It doesn't say that he had an engineer. He doesn't say he registered the dam. He doesn't say he had an engineer inspect it. And he's claiming that he has saved other people from problems. But that's not what we heard from Karl Akamovic, who is a professional engineer, when he came to the meeting a couple of months ago. So DEP's telling him to remove the berm, and he's looking at an attorney to see how he's going to respond to DEP. At this juncture, I think he needs his own engineer to give him advice on how to deal with this. If DEP's engineers have suggested to remove the berm, we have Karl Akamovic, who's a professional engineer, who said there's problems with the berm. And I need to, so my thoughts on this matter, which he's looking for, is if you're going to object to removing the berm and that was enlarged by him, then he needs to have an engineer. Otherwise, he has an outstanding violation.
Yeah, I think he's not providing a course of action that has substance. So what you're suggesting is the best way to go. I was wondering if there was any relationship, because the proximity is close to the previous issue we just talked about, correct?
I don't know enough about both sites to be able to answer that, because I haven't driven out there and looked at it.
I think that they're not, actually, they're not close enough to impact each other at all.
Who's speaking?
This is Chris Baker. I'm sorry.
Oh, hi, Chris. Okay.
Yeah, I just stayed on because you were talking about another issue for our tax district, but I assume we're talking about the two ponds that are below the Red Barn on Bungie Hill Road that this letter has come from that gentleman.
Correct.
Yeah, and you know, the last storm that we had, those two ponds did overflow down into the road, and the neighbors along the lake were calling me for relief, but they were able to work with shovels and there's a little bit of a catch basin and keep things from flooding over the road for the most part. But it is definitely a critical situation, and there are some trees that are about to fall over because of the wetness in the ground. I've called the power company about that as well, but definitely it's another situation.
Well, that's interesting because it doesn't really, we don't get that impression from reading this letter, which says there's nothing to see here, folks. Seems like.
Yeah, and I can show you some more pictures if you need to, but it was definitely overflowing.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah,
Dan, I'm wondering
sorry.
if Dan received a copy of DEP's response.
We had looked at an email last month that contained Alaskans' comments that he should, that the dam was under DEP purview,
Yeah, but
and that
that's,
it would need to be registered.
but he's saying that they're telling him he needs to remove it completely. Their best suggestion was to remove the berm completely. Where did that come from?
I'll ask him where that, what letter that came from, because I haven't seen that.
My guess is that maybe he had a conversation with him on the phone,
Okay.
and they made that as a comment to him that it would probably be just as easy, better for him to remove the berm, and that way he wouldn't have to register anything, because then it wouldn't be a dam.
Yeah.
So if you can touch base with him and find out how do you get that information from DEP, because you don't have it and we don't have it.
I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I support Marla's comment that, he should, he in his letter here, he says that he's retained an attorney, but he should also consult with his engineer, not just the attorney.
Yeah.
I don't think he has an engineer.
Well,
That's the problem.
so he says your thoughts on this matter would be greatly appreciated. Well, convey to him that our thoughts are he should also be talking to an engineer, not an attorney, or just the attorney. And that we would like to see the documentation of DEP's comment of their recommendation or the suggestion, if they did it in writing or if they just did it verbally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a series of pictures which I can send to Dan that shows the overflow of the ponds during the last storm, if you'd like.
Yes, please, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
My email is danmalo@woodstockct.gov.
On the way.
That's not consistent in the letter. He says there was no overtopping, correct?
Correct, but there definitely was.
Yeah, okay.
You'll see it in the pictures.
One suggestion, Chris, that I would suggest that you make to the people that are being affected by this, the
Yep.
downstream property owners, tell them to keep contemporaneous notes.
Okay.
If they have like a composition book, anytime they have a conversation with anybody, they should mark it down, who they talk to, when they talk to them. If they see something and they take pictures, they should mark down that they've taken pictures, and then for their pictures, they want to make sure they have enough information as who took the pictures, where they were taken from, what they're supposed to be showing, what's the date and the time that the pictures were taken. All those things can be used at a later time to verify what the conditions are. But they need to do that on a contemporaneous basis, not come in at the end and say, well, this has happened in the past, but you don't have any evidence. The evidence is the photographs and the contemporaneous notes of what they saw and who they talked to.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, are you going to be working in Woodstock on Wednesday?
Not this Wednesday.
Because I think it might be valuable if someone would take some pictures on Wednesday morning. If we get a lot of rain, it might be something to see on Wednesday morning.
Or Thursday morning.
Or Thursday morning, yeah.
I'll be there both mornings taking pictures for you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to drive through the neighborhood on Thursday.
if you do go through Dan on Thursday, see if you can take a look at Karen Fitzpatrick's property, see how they fared through the storm too. Because you're going to be right in the area.
Yep. And I've been Karen brings these concerns to me periodically. So she initiated this conversation for us here tonight effectively. So I'll touch base with her again tomorrow and on Thursday after the storm.
Yeah. All right. Do we have anything else under administrative business?
Yeah. Didn't we get budget stuff?
Yep. So it's Dan's recommendation that we go with last year's line item amounts. I have no problem with that recommendation. The rest of you?
Is there a page in the budget where that appears? Because I printed it out, so I want
The worksheet that he sent?
the Excel spreadsheet. There's like 30 pages or something that
It's just page 29, I believe.
Okay.
No, that's not the right one. No. Yeah, you got to find the right page. It's buried. Sent you the whole
Okay.
thing.
Page 15.
Is it 15?
15.
All right, hold on. Okay, so one of the things that concerns me is that the wetlands agent funding comes from the selectmen's budget. And I think that what's been happening for the land use offices, with them having to hire a consultant at a fairly high rate, with Dan willing on a temporary basis to stay in on only 8 hours, which I don't know whether, Dan, you feel that that's enough time to spend in Woodstock. Originally, we were struggling at 10 hours when Tina LaJoy was in the office, and she knew the town really, really well, and she'd been the building clerk for a long time. So I'm not sure that the town has enough funding for the land use staff, and that's wouldn't be in our budget, but it should be brought to the Board of Selectmen's.
I agree, Marla. The position, the wetlands agent position was posted alongside of the ZEO position with the opportunity to merge the two positions into a full-time thing. But I still think the full-time hours that they were proposing were not really full-time. They weren't 35 hours. I think they were 28. There's always more work that can be done if given more time. And I think we're in we've hit winter finally, and the pace of things has slowed a little bit, but we do have some busy months in spring. March or April, we might wind up with 8 items on our agenda. And with only coverage of the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning, there's no real opportunity for customer service outside of an appointment. Tracy does a good job of taking walk-ins in the morning, but a lot of people do want to speak to the ZEO or the wetlands agent, and there's just no person. They're disappointed when they come to the office and there's no person they can speak to about their issues.
Page 14 is, Marla, I think, is where That position is listed, right?
I don't know that. It says
So
land
so-
use staff,
so do
part-time
you-
staff. That could
you
be
wanna-
the CEO.
Yeah. Well, at the bottom of page 14, it says department head, CEO and wetlands agent, part-time.
So they've combined them
They've
for only
combined them. Yeah.
12,000 and 19,000 for the
I'm
so
seeing,
19 for this current fiscal year.
FY 23-24 final budget, part-time staff 19,095, salary department head 31,887.
And who's that? Who's department head? Who's that?
CEO and wetlands agent?
No,
That must
I don't know.
be me, but I don't think I don't make $32,000 a year.
So,
I wouldn't leave you guys.
when do we have to have our budget request into the Board of Selectmen? You know?
I think by the end of the month. Pretty
No
sure.
later
Please
than
submit no
January
later than
25th.
January 25th, 2024.
And when did we get this request?
Well, the letter's dated December 12th.
Yeah, I don't think we received it that far away. I think it did come in closer. Maybe shortly after our last meeting, and
So I think since it's not our budget, I think we need to ask First Selectman Swan to come to our next meeting to discuss our staffing issues. Because the Board of Selectmen are going to have to be working on their budget, including the rest of the budget to make recommendations to the Board of Finance. So I doubt that their budget will be finalized by our next meeting, which is what, February 2nd? What's the date?
It would be February 5th.
Okay. So if he could come, and since that's only, what, 7 days after what the limit is, or about that, we should invite and put it on our agenda to discuss our staffing needs.
okay.
Well, I'm looking at the letter from Selectman Swan, and in that first paragraph, last sentence says, if you feel you need to meet with the Board of Selectmen, you must submit your request no later than January 25th, 2024. I'm guessing, so maybe we should go ahead and submit our budget, but also our budget request for wetlands, but also with the added comment that we are, very concerned with, funding page, 14 for staff, and that we want to make sure that is fully funded so that we can get somebody on board.
So we can submit our budget, but then at
Yeah.
the same time, Dan can send a request to the Board of Selectmen that we would like to meet with them and make
Yep.
that request before January 25th. Doesn't mean we have to meet with them before January
Correct,
25th. Just means we have to make our request for it.
correct. That's what I'm saying. Yep.
So if Dan could forward, or you, Mark, could forward a request to have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen. But unfortunately, we cannot meet. If we meet with the Board of Selectmen, that's a special meeting for us. If they come to our meeting, it's a special meeting for them. So I think it's appropriate to have First Selectman Swan attend our next meeting and have a discussion with them. And if then he feels that there needs to be representation at his board's meeting, then they can set that up.
I was just wondering, would it be of any value for one of us to attend the Board of Selectmen meeting?
Oh, definitely. More than one of us can attend. We just can't talk to each other. We can
No,
make our comments note for sure. But we don't have a consensus ourselves yet as to what we need as far as staffing hours. I mean, I'm still thinking that they need at least 15 hours.
In other words, Marla, we need more than what we're
more than
been-
what they have in their budget now, because he's talking about zero increase, which is, that's not gonna fly. I mean,
Right.
when we had Prop 46 in place, you could understand that, but Prop 46 is gone. And I want to make sure that we don't get stuck down the road with a lot of development proposals and have no staff to deal with that.
Good, good.
We'll be in a mess.
Yeah.
We're heading in that direction already, but that's whatever.
They should know it, that there is pending challenges, to put it nicely.
So Dan, what is the price that they are currently paying for consultant to do the work of what would have been staff?
So it appears on the page 14 land use that consultant line of 48,900. That line is noted contractual service is for contracted town planner and part-time zoning consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't have prior fiscal years when shown here where we weren't using a zoning consultant.
I have them. I have
Okay.
some of them. So I'll go pull them up. I have them in a box, see what I can find. Back when Tina was still here, we were trying to get more hours back then. I even went to the Board of Finance and testified at one of their meetings, and it was like, you know,
I
pounding
also
on sand.
I also believe that salaried department head line is probably also used to supplement the contractual services line. Because
Mhm.
I don't see us not paying for Delia's services less than 30, 35. I don't know how much we use her in the scope of what she does at NECOG and how much we pay for that. But I feel like Tyke and Delia Faye's services are much more than $48,000, 900.
So those are probably some of the questions that we have for Selectman Swan and for Ms. Fitzpatrick, is to find out who's getting what. Where does that money, that's in the budget, who's it go to? I mean, I've gone through this before a bunch of years ago, so I'm about ready, willing to do it again. I think we need to have better, Dan, I like you, but we need to have more of a full-time, not full-time, but more hours in the wetlands office for staff to be able to provide the kinds of assistance and follow-up that needs to be done. Because
Absolutely.
there's just no way I can see that you can do it. You look at what you have to do in Thompson, and that's not even enough. So, and that was supposed to be 15 hours, and it's, anyways, whatever. So, Mark, are you in agreement to have Dan contact Swan, or do you want to contact Swan and ask him, tell him that we want to meet with him?
Yeah, Dan, you mind doing it, or would you prefer I contact Jay?
I'll mention it to him tomorrow, but I'll also be sending him an email with that request for his
yeah.
letter. I think I'll CC you all.
Yep.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So you're going to send them back saying we're not asking for any change in our budget?
For the wetlands budget, but
For the
we do
wetlands.
have questions regarding the land use staffing.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you could call it more concerns than questions.
Sure.
That's a diplomatic way of doing it, Bill.
But what would, so basically our intent would be that we're gonna be asking for, or expecting potential increase.
Yes, we have concerns and recommendations that there should be increases in the land use budget for staff to cover the wetlands issues that will come up, with increased development pressures. Yep.
We can anticipate that there will be, in the next year, there will be increases.
Right,
And that's how we should convey that to the Board of Selectmen.
correct.
So Dan, you had said that there had been advertising out for a wetlands position. Do you know where they advertised?
Yeah, I gave Crystal a lot of good leads. They advertised in the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities job listing forum, the Connecticut APA Planners Association job listing, Cacklewick. The posting is still up on Cacklewick. They noticed on Casio, and I believe the Massachusetts Metropolitan Association's job listing.
Were you able to download any of those announcements? Or could she share those with us, what she sent?
I know the Cacklewick one is still up because I was on the Cacklewick page today.
Where is that on the, I got Cacklewick page up right now.
Yeah, there's a sidebar, environmental job postings
What side of the page?
on the right-hand side.
Right-hand side. Okay. Job postings. Okay, so it's got Woodstock there, up to 10 hours a week. But they don't say what the
Yeah, there was no salary
yeah.
listed with it.
Mm. It's not helpful when there's no salary.
I know.
See if you can get if you could forward from Crystal, if you can get it from her, what the posting was. If this was the same posting that went everywhere, if you could confirm that.
Yep.
If it's not the same, then could you forward to the rest of us what it was that was posted on the other websites?
Sure.
So we can see if there's any way we can help them out and where they went to. Where was she soliciting? Remember where there was I can't remember if it was last meeting whether we talked about UConn, if they had any kind of job kind of assistance to students that are graduating. Whether or not there was some kind of posting that could be put there or at Eastern Connecticut. Well, actually, we didn't talk about Eastern Connecticut State University, but they have environmental courses there too. Did they solicit any of the university job? What do they call those? Those that support jobs, getting people jobs.
Placement.
Yes.
Services.
Yeah. Job placement services. And how long are you anticipating staying in the position that you're in? Because last month, the minutes said that you were expecting to be here through January.
Well, I think it's going to be longer than that. I told Crystal that we could carry on indefinitely, that I'd at least deliver a month's notice for a final end date. Part of it, I think they're trying to work to find more money for the land use, and that the next time they post the position, it might be a full land use officer position with a salary listed, something, in a more attractive listing. And if they do receive a candidate pool and they have a qualified candidate, then I'm ready to pass the baton.
Well, as long as you're willing to stay indefinitely, they're going to be not as encouraged to find somebody.
I think that Tyke, our zoning services, I believe they're on their 25th or 26th town that they're working with, and they only have 3 people on their team right now, and they are overwhelmed probably with what they're doing, more than I, I've got the tip of the iceberg, but I have a feeling that they're on a month-to-month basis, and if they can shed a town, that they're happy to do it in quick order. So I think my exit probably will be concurrent with theirs, and that's based on finding a qualified candidate on a full-time basis.
So are they under contract with the town?
That's my understanding, and it's month to month.
So they all they have to do is give a 30-day notice and town doesn't have anybody?
I could be.
So I guess the question that I have for the Board of Selectmen is what's your contract with the contractor to find out at what risk is the town at?
Say that again, Molly, you broke up.
I was saying that I wanted to know what the contract was that they had with Tyke, because if they're on a 30-day notice, just like Dan is, and they decide they want to shed Woodstock, then Woodstock only has 30 days to find somebody to do the zoning enforcement work that needs to be done. And
It's not enough time.
that's, they've got to come to a more permanent solution. It almost feels like we're a town that's got a cancer, and the cancer hasn't killed us yet, but we're not feeling too well.
So in other words, we don't even have a plan B.
Right now, it doesn't look it.
There isn't.
So
Some the councils of government, CCOG, in the Norwich area, they have started providing circuit rider land use services, wetlands agents and ZEOs and blight officers and such. NECOG isn't there yet, and I don't know if that's something that they're working on that would be implemented in this year, but I know it's a direction that a lot of councils of governments are taking, and could potentially be an option for Woodstock this year. I don't know if ideally a presence in the office on a routine basis, that is a reliable routine basis that people can come to know and understand, is the approach that will get them the best results. Having somebody remotely to fulfill the inspection need for Woodstock, that's a tall order in itself. There's a lot of ground to cover here, and we're distant from a lot of our neighbors that we could share a service with. So I really think in-house staff is the best approach to meet the needs. So that's always going to be my recommendation.
It sounds to me like that we're on the cusp of being not functional. If that can be presented to the selectmen, I think that there's a certain, gravity to the situation that they have to be aware of.
Absolutely. Mark said this last year when we were at budget season, that if that the town can't provide the service for its residents, that the state will do it for money. And that is not the economical approach either. And so we always have that rationale in our list of, we have many rationales. So hopefully we do get the Board of Selectmen to take a serious look at the staffing needs of these offices, because historically there was more hours in these positions to conduct this work, and they got trimmed back dramatically. And we're trying to find the appropriate balance, but we need more hours.
So what I can tell the rest of the commission is I stopped in the office. You know, Dan does the best he can with the time that he can. And I wanted to see what records were there. Well, the records, the files are still missing. There are files that are missing, can't track them down. And that's because we haven't had adequate staffing to, you know, to keep people long enough. And you got to pay them in order to do that. If you want to have somebody there for a period of time, you can't pay them part-time at 10 hours a week unless they're a retired person. There's not that many of them around that can do the job. So you got to get somebody who's on a career path that wants to get themselves educated and stay with a place for a while and know that they have enough of a living wage, which we don't have. And I know that all of us as commission members really care about the town and care about the wetlands. And there's only so much we can do as commission members. We need to have that staff support.
It sort of synchronizes with the state regulations, though. I mean, that's interesting because what I've learned is that the wetlands is the only town commission that has more legal grounds than any of the other commissions. More legal standing.
So, Stuart, one of the differences between planning and zoning and in the wetlands is there is no public policy on planning and zoning commissions.
Correct.
There is no oversight agency on planning and zoning commissions. They are creatures solely of the municipality. You don't have to have a planning commission. You don't have to have a zoning commission in your town. You do have to have a wetlands commission, and there's a public policy established by the legislature to say why you need to have them. So there's a difference between the two land use concepts.
That's really what my point is that, you know, the gravitas of this commission is completely underestimated or not known, maybe as well as it should be by the town.
But unfortunately, a number of people look at it also as an unfunded mandate. So because you don't have to have a planning and zoning commission in town, you're not mandated to have one, but you are mandated to have a wetlands commission, because if you don't, then the state will regulate it for you at a big cost. It's like an unfunded mandate. Okay. And I think there is sometimes a reluctance to say that, but they don't realize the value to protecting their citizens from unnecessary destruction of wetlands and watercourses. And that's what we're here for, is to try to protect people down the road and not just let, you know, development happen willy-nilly. Even though the Planning and Zoning Commission can do it, they're not mandated to do it. A lot of the stuff that they have is optional. It's not mandatory. Even looking at environmental concerns, it's not it's optional. They can put it in their regulations, but they're not required to. We are required to. So that's the big difference. Well, at some point, Dan, I'm probably going to stop in the office. I'm probably going to start asking about some of those questions about who's getting paid what for what services, so that if we do decide to go to the Board of Finance, or we do decide to have discussions with the Board of Selectmen, we'll at least have an understanding as to where the current money is going and how it's being doled out, to see is there a more efficient way to do this, one that helps the town in a better way. And I'm glad you got Tracy.
Oh yeah, it's made a complete difference. Administrative help is the front line. They intercept the customer at the door. They intercept the phone call. They triage a lot of the business that's coming into the door. So I'm allowed to focus on the technical work that I need to do. I mean, she's made quite a difference in just the workflow and efficiency.
And her salary comes out of the Board of Selectmen also, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's on that page 14 document, the part-time staff, 16-hour a week position, administrative assistant, and they list in 2022-23, they list 12,900, and fiscal year 23-24, they list $19,095. I don't know what she makes. But I'm sure it's got to be $20 to $25 an hour or so at 16 hours a week. It might be less than that. So I don't know if she gets the full share of that line, or if we're cobbling money from a bunch of different lines to help pay for the consultant.
Yeah. Well, that should be all public information, what each person's salary is and how many hours they work a week. So that is doable, but that means contacting the finance office and finding out, because they're the ones that have all that information.
The dues and conferences listed in row 549 on page 14. Does that include the dues to Kakiwick and?
No, that's on the
Oh.
wetlands. So when you
Okay,
go down to
okay.
inland wetlands, you have dues and conferences, which were $150.
Right. So what is the $700 on page 14? What dues and conferences does that go to?
I would assume that would go to whatever things that the other people in the land use department, like, I don't know. Beats me.
There are zoning trade groups that I don't think they really even come close to using that fund too much, but I know I did enroll the zoning commission, and I think it was a Southern New England zoning type of association when I administered their commission.
Hmm.
I think I pulled a Cacklewick out of there, or another type of training from that salary or that particular budget line.
Yeah, because it would have been the commission members that would have pulled it from the inland wetlands on page 15. And I didn't submit a request for reimbursement for my Kakiwick attendance. Because there was only $150 there.
Yeah.
So if Bill, if you submitted yours for reimbursement, that would have gone out of there.
I didn't submit it.
You didn't either. So we gave donations to the town. I wonder if I should submit it now and just say, okay, you want to be cheap? Can I?
I'd be happy to, if you guys forward me your receipts or whatever you have. If you want that money back, I can try to get it for you.
Well, I think I deleted my invoice accidentally, but so that's probably why I didn't actually send it in to you.
I may look for it and send it in just to say, look, you want to be cheap, so can I be? All right, whatever.
Yeah.
Have we beaten this dead dog enough?
Yep.
Not dead yet, though.
But it's in intensive care.
Extensive care.
Yes, expensive care.
Okay, do we have anything else under administrative business?
Fortunately, no application revisions. I feel like
Yeah.
I've said that a few times, but other business got in the way. We had some holidays that stole time from the operation.
Dan, you had mentioned to me that there was a bridge crossing that we had authorized a couple of years back, that the town was getting ready to move forward on that. That was, if I recall correctly, it was on the down near where,
The county road.
yeah,
So John Navarro had stopped in with Jay Scranton, who's the new highway foreman, and we briefly talked about their need to replace a culvert, and there would be work in the wetlands on County Road. I called on Thursday, spoke to Jay, and they weren't prepared to, because I'd asked them if they wanted me to maintain a spot on the agenda for them for this meeting. And I called Thursday to confirm with Jay whether or not he wanted to be on the meeting and had anything to present. And that he's still acclimating to the position, and I think they still have work to do with the plans.
Is that the one at 169 in County Road?
I'm not certain. Well, I don't think we brought up a nearby intersection.
The one at that intersection was kind of improvements. It wasn't culvert replacement. They were gonna widen the road a little bit there, or widen at the bridge.
The one that you're talking about is now?
The one at 169 and the county road,
Yeah,
next to the bridge that the state just replaced.
right. So you think it's at that general location?
I'm just saying there's no culvert replacement in part of that project.
Oh,
So he might be at a different location.
yeah, no, I'm thinking it was in South Woodstock. It was the one, what's the brook?
Peak Brook Road.
Peak Brook, yeah.
That was all
Oh.
approved
was
and
it.
everything. So I don't
Yep.
know whether they just waiting for money or what. It
That was-
kind of looks like they're starting to do might be doing some engineering work on Roseland Park Road for Muddy Brook also.
Peak Brook Road still is, that was that was a bridge replacement.
Yeah.
And that still is valid, I believe, for another year or two. So probably need to look that up to see if they're going to need an extension. Because that will expire in 5 years if they don't, unless they got an extension through the statute. So, but I haven't heard other than what Dan, that you had mentioned about them coming in and saying that. I thought that was where it was Peak Brook Road, which is down.
I'll confirm with Jay Scranton some of the details that were brought up here,
Yeah.
just to pinpoint the location. I'll share that by email with you guys in between the meetings.
My recollection was you couldn't find that we looked for that file in your filing cabinet. We didn't find it, but I had a set of site plans.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I left site plans with you for Peak Brook Road. And that should not have been one that should have been destroyed either. And I may have kept a copy of something of that. But anyways, if you could check and see if where they stand on Peak Brook Road, that would be good. Because they don't want that to expire if they're entitled to an extension.
Well, I mean, like, as you said, it might be extended by statute due to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll check that, check the dates, and if they do need an extension, I'll let him know while I'm talking to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they could even ask for it now. There's
Yeah.
nothing that stops them from asking for an extension now if they only have the 5 year. I can't remember when we processed that application. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Could have gotten an extension under COVID, but I don't know. I can't think of anything else we need to talk about.
All right. So Roman numeral number 8, citizens' comments. Looking at the folks on the call, and
They hung up.
they hung up. Okay.
We did mention, when it comes to bylaw revisions and which I think we're gonna pick up in February, incorporating an earlier citizens comment period.
Yeah, Marla was going to make a recommendation to have both in 2 spots. One near the beginning of the meeting and then one later in the meeting.
So you want me to draft that language up so it's ready for the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay. That's a bylaw change.
correct.
And that's also when we have to do our election of officers.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I'll do that.
All right. So we've got some things to do, and we'll meet again first Monday in February, right? When is that?
February 5th.
Yep. February 5th. Very good. 7 o'clock.
Guess what?
What?
We have February 29th next month.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Leap year already.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Marla moves, we adjourn.
Seconded by Stuart Peasley.
Motion made by Marla Butt, seconded by Stuart Peasley to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so moved. And I synced my clock on my computer during the meeting, and so now it's reading 8:49 p.m. Is that what you got, Marla?
I got the same.
Yeah.